The greatest mistake in human dealings is to believe that generosity breeds loyalty. In truth, it breeds contempt. When you strip away the gift, the comfort, the constant offering, you force the other to confront the void. And in that void, they either crumble, or they pursue you with everything they have. Power is not gained by the abundance of what you give, but by the scarcity of what you withhold. To offer nothing is to sharpen desire, to ignite hunger, to place yourself as the object that others orbit around. In a world where men bleed themselves dry for approval, the one who withholds becomes a dark star, drawing all into his gravity while giving back nothing. This is not cruelty, it is strategy. It is the art of appearing untouchable, and in that appearance, making others give themselves willingly. Power does not come from what you give. It comes from what you deny. Consider this. Why do men chase what they cannot have while discarding what is freely given? The answer is not noble. It is not rooted in virtue. It is rooted in hunger. When something is abundant, the human mind grows blind to it. Gold scattered in the streets would be trampled like dirt, but place a single coin in the palm of a beggar, and he will worship the hand that holds it. Scarcity creates magnetism. Abundance breeds neglect. Think of the Roman emperors. They did not walk among the people, handing out favors at every turn. They appeared rarely, shrouded in ceremony, hidden behind veils of power. Their distance, their unavailability, made them gods in the eyes of the masses. By offering nothing of themselves, they compelled the people to give them everything: their faith, their taxes, their loyalty. Now contrast this with a ruler who gave too much. Consider Emperor Pertinax, who tried to restore Rome with generosity, cutting military indulgences and showing fairness. His gifts were seen as weakness. The soldiers who benefited from extravagance now despised him for his restraint. Within months, he was murdered by his own guard. Why? Because generosity raised expectations he could not satisfy. And once a man is seen as failing to give, he becomes worthless in the eyes of those he once fed. You must understand this principle. To give endlessly is to enslave yourself. To withhold is to enslave others. Even in personal relationships, the same law rules. The lover who is too available becomes invisible. The friend who always agrees becomes irrelevant. But the one who withholds, who vanishes, who leaves a void, becomes unforgettable. Think of the lover who does not answer your message, the leader who does not seek your praise, the teacher who withholds approval. Do they not linger in your mind more than those who smother you with affection? Absence, not presence, creates obsession. Scarcity triggers the most primal of instincts: pursuit. The hunter desires the prey that runs. The merchant desires the spice that is rare. The ruler desires the loyalty that is withheld. And the people desire the leader who is unreachable. Psychology confirms what rulers always knew. The mind equates rarity with value. The forbidden, the hidden, the difficult. These command more power than what lies open on the table. It is not the banquet that binds men, but the hunger for the feast just out of reach. So ask yourself, do you give too much of yourself? Do you make your presence too common, your words too accessible, your approval too easy? If so, you are already invisible. To reverse this, learn the art of absence. Withdraw your presence. Speak less. Offer less. And in that silence, you will find others leaning closer, desperate to hear, desperate to see, desperate to have what you refuse to give. This is not cruelty. It is mathematics of the human soul. Men value what is withheld. They ignore what is offered. Look at the merchants of Venice. The rare spice, the silk carried across dangerous seas. These became treasures, but the common cloth woven in every village. It commanded no respect. You must make yourself the rare spice, not the common cloth. But beware. Scarcity must be controlled. Withdraw too much and you risk irrelevance. Withdraw too little and you drown in abundance. The art lies in balance, to give only enough to remind them of your presence and withhold enough to sharpen their hunger. Scarcity is not emptiness. It is strategy. It is the ability to shape desire, to ignite need, to compel loyalty without lifting a finger. Think carefully. Would you rather be pursued or ignored? Would you rather command loyalty freely or beg for it through endless gifts. History answers for you. The rulers who withheld were worshipped, the rulers who gave were devoured. And so, the question turns inward. Are you ready to master the power of absence? Are you prepared to strip away abundance and stand as something rare, untouchable, magnetic? Because once you do, you will discover a truth darker than gold, sharper than steel. When you offer them nothing, they will give you everything. But what happens when they give you everything, and you still refuse to give in return? That, my friend, is where the true game begins. Value is not truth. Value is perception, and perception can be shaped. Have you ever noticed how men fight not for what is real, but for what they believe is rare, sacred, untouchable? The illusion of value rules them more completely than the substance itself. A diamond, for example, is only a rock. Its worth was not born from nature. It was manufactured by scarcity, by secrecy, by the careful manipulation of desire. The merchants who controlled it withheld supply, spread myths of rarity, and positioned themselves as gatekeepers. And now the world bows to a stone that can be found in the earth like any other. This is the law. People do not chase what is valuable. They chase what appears valuable. The wise ruler understands this. The cunning strategist lives by it. Consider the Medici of Florence. They were bankers, men of numbers, not born kings. Yet through art, patronage, and careful illusions of grandeur, they transformed themselves into a dynasty that commanded reverence. Their palaces were not merely homes. They were symbols of unreachable wealth. Their presence in public was orchestrated to seem larger than life. They built not just fortunes, but perceptions, and those perceptions bent the city to their will. Now ask yourself what makes you valuable in the eyes of others. Is it truly your skill, your virtue, your deeds? Or is it the image you project, the scarcity you create, the silence that forces others to imagine your greatness? Men do not see you as you are. They see you as you allow them to see you. And if you understand this, you can appear priceless, even when you give nothing. The greatest trick of power is this, to give the illusion of value while offering nothing of substance. A king's crown is metal and jewels, but the illusion it carries makes men die for it. A general's uniform is fabric and thread, but the illusion it carries makes armies follow him into fire. Do you see? The crown does not hold power. The mind of the people does. And if you can shape the mind, you can shape their loyalty, their devotion, their sacrifice. Psychology proves what rulers always practiced. The human brain confuses scarcity with worth, difficulty with greatness, distance with superiority. If something is rare, it must be valuable. If someone is difficult to reach, they must be important. This illusion runs deeper than reason. It is instinct. Think of the lover who withholds affection. Their silence, their absence, becomes interpreted as strength, as superiority. The mind of the desperate partner paints them as precious, rare, almost divine. Meanwhile, the one who smothers with affection appears cheap, common, forgettable. Nothing has changed in truth, but everything has changed in perception. This is how you must think, not in terms of what you are, but in terms of what you appear to be. If others believe you are valuable, you are. If they believe you are ordinary, you vanish into dust. So I ask you, why reveal everything? Why prove your worth through endless words, endless deeds, endless giving? Do you not see that the more you show, the less you are valued? The more you explain, the less you are believed. The more you chase, the less you are desired. The illusion of value requires restraint. It requires silence. It requires the discipline to let others imagine greatness where you show only fragments. Look at the church in the Middle Ages. Did they reveal the mysteries of heaven freely? No, they cloaked their rituals in smoke, shadows, and secrecy. The scriptures were kept from the masses, spoken in Latin that few understood. This withholding created awe, obedience, fear. The illusion of divine value made peasants kneel before priests as if before gods. It was never about truth. It was about control. And so, the lesson is clear. Do not strive to be valuable. Strive to appear valuable. Guard your presence. Guard your words. Guard your approval. Offer fragments, not the whole. Let others weave myths around you, until they give you loyalty not for what you are, but for what they imagine you to be. Because in the end, it is not reality that rules men, it is illusion. And the one who controls illusion controls everything. But there is a danger. If illusion builds value, then exposure destroys it. So what happens when others see behind the curtain? When they discover that your worth was never substance, only shadow. Words are dangerous. They reveal, they expose, they bind you to promises you may later regret. But silence conceals, it protects, it manipulates without being touched. Ask yourself, when you speak, do you not surrender control? Every word can be twisted. Every admission can be used against you. Yet when you say nothing, you leave the other in torment, filling the void with their own fears, desires, and fantasies. This is why silence is a weapon, not the silence of passivity, but the silence of strategy. Consider rulers of old. The most feared were not those who shouted decrees from the balcony. It was those who remained silent, their thoughts hidden, their judgments unknown. An unpredictable prince terrifies his court more than one who explains himself. For men fear the unknown more than the sword they can see. Think of the trial of Galileo. The church spoke loudly, condemning him, branding him heretic. But Galileo, under pressure, whispered submission, and then withdrew into silence. What happened? The silence outlived the noise. The church's words faded into dust, while Galileo's silence allowed his truth to seep into history with greater power than speech ever could. Do you see the pattern? Noise dies, silence endures. In personal dealings, the same principle rules. Imagine a negotiation. Two men sit across a table. One speaks endlessly, pleading his case, justifying, explaining, bargaining. The other listens, saying nothing. Who holds power in that moment? The talker bleeds away his strength, revealing his position. The silent one watches, gathers information, and makes the other dance in uncertainty. You have felt this yourself. You send a message, and it goes unanswered. You wait, restless, imagining 1,000 meanings in the silence. Do they despise you? Are they testing you? Do they not care at all? The absence of words burns deeper than any insult. Because silence forces you to torture yourself. This is control, not by action, but by restraint. Psychologists call it the projection effect. The human mind hates a void. When someone withholds reaction, the mind scrambles to fill the silence with its own stories. If they are guilty, they imagine condemnation. If they are desperate, they imagine rejection. If they are in love, they imagine mystery. The silent man makes others reveal themselves, while he reveals nothing. Now reflect on your own habits. Do you rush to explain yourself? Do you fear the emptiness between words? Do you offer constant reassurance, constant validation, constant noise? If so, you have already surrendered control. The art of silence is the art of power. It is the pause in the conversation that unsettles the boldest speaker. It is the refusal to react that drives manipulators insane. It is the stillness of the predator before the strike. Look at history's conquerors. Julius Caesar did not waste words when silence served better. Before crossing the Rubicon, he said little, letting the silence of his march speak louder than proclamations. That silence became thunder. That silence toppled a republic. Even in war, silence is strategy. The quiet before an ambush terrifies more than the noise of approaching drums. The absence of movement, the unseen strike, these freeze the enemy with dread. For silence is not emptiness. It is tension concentrated. And yet, silence is not always absence. It can be staged. A deliberate pause in your speech. A withheld answer in a heated debate. A cold stare where words would have been wasted. Such silences scream louder than voices ever could. But beware, silence must be intentional. The silence of fear is weakness. The silence of discipline is power. You must not be mute because you are timid, but mute because you have chosen the battlefield on which you will speak. Ask yourself, how much stronger would you be if you spoke half as much? If you let others reveal themselves while you remained unreadable? If you allowed silence to do the work of 10,000 words? Silence is a mirror. It forces others to see their own reflection, while you remain untouched. It is the invisible chain that makes men dance while you stand still. So I leave you with this thought. The man who masters speech influences the crowd, but the man who masters silence controls the speaker himself. And yet, there is one weapon even greater than silence, a force that twists the mind far more deeply, leaving no space for resistance. Generosity is praised as virtue, but in truth, it is often a chain. Ask yourself what happens when you give too much. Are you admired? Are you loved? Or are you drained, taken for granted, discarded when the well runs dry? History shows us the danger. Kings who lavished their subjects with gifts found themselves despised when they could give no more. Friends who sacrificed endlessly discovered that loyalty was only as strong as the next offering. And lovers who poured out affection were abandoned the moment their devotion grew predictable. This is the curse of generosity. It creates dependence not in others but in you. You become enslaved to the expectations you built. Consider the fate of Emperor Pertinax. He inherited Rome after the excesses of Commodus. Pertinax tried to restore discipline, to cut the waste, to act with fairness. But he had one fatal flaw. He believed generosity would buy him time. He granted the Praetorian Guard large payments, hoping to secure loyalty. Yet the gift only sharpened their hunger. When he could not match their growing demands, they cut him down. What he thought was a shield became his noose. Do you see? The more you give, the more they expect. And expectations never remain constant. They grow. They devour. Psychology confirms what rulers already knew. Humans adapt quickly to benefits. The moment you provide something once considered rare, it becomes normal. And when it becomes normal, gratitude evaporates. Now, what was once seen as a gift becomes seen as a right. And if you ever withdraw it, you are not remembered as generous, you are hated as cruel. Think of a ruler who lowers taxes. At first, the people rejoice. But soon, the lower tax becomes the baseline. And if the ruler ever raises it back, he is cursed as a tyrant. The original generosity is forgotten. Only the loss remains. So too in your life, you offer your time freely. You bend yourself for others. You hand out favors without restraint. At first, they thank you. Then they grow accustomed. And one day when you dare to say no, they turn on you. Because in their mind, your generosity was not a choice. It was an obligation. This is why endless giving weakens the giver. It enslaves you to your own image of benevolence. And once you are chained, you can no longer act freely. Ask yourself, do you truly give because you are strong or because you are afraid of being disliked? Most generosity is not power, it is fear wearing a mask of virtue. Look at the Medici bankers. They gave loans to kings, financed wars, built cathedrals. Their generosity was never free. It was precise, calculated, always with interest. This is why they ruled Florence from the shadows. They understood that generosity without return is ruin. Generosity with return is empire. The wise ruler gives rarely, and when he does, he makes the gift unforgettable. He does not pour out endless favors. He strikes once, with precision, so the act appears grand, sacred, unrepeatable. Scarcity makes the gift heavy. Abundance makes it worthless. Think of your own dealings. Do you buy loyalty by giving too much? Do you exhaust yourself feeding the endless appetites of others? If so, you are already owned. And once they own you, they will discard you the moment your usefulness fades. This is why it is better to be feared than loved. Love demands constant nourishment. Fear requires only presence. Generosity feeds love. Restraint preserves fear. The burden of generosity is that it binds you to the hunger of others. The art of restraint frees you to command. So I ask, which path will you choose? To bleed yourself out in gifts and affection, only to be hated when the fountain dries? Or to withhold, to strike rarely, to let scarcity turn your every act into legend? History gives the answer. The generous are forgotten or betrayed. The restrained are remembered as rulers. Because in truth, generosity does not buy loyalty, it buys dependency, and dependency breeds resentment. Better to give nothing and be desired than to give everything and be despised. But there is a deeper force than generosity, one that rules the human mind with sharper chains. It is not what you give that enslaves them, it is what you deny. Man cannot live with emptiness. He fears it more than pain, more than struggle, more than truth. The void is unbearable, and in that terror lies one of the greatest weapons of control. Ask yourself what happens when someone denies you answers. When you are left in silence, in uncertainty, in absence, do you calmly accept it? Or does your mind begin to spin, to torment itself, to invent stories in the darkness? This is the psychology of the void. The human mind cannot leave emptiness alone. It must fill it, with guesses, with hopes, with fears. And whoever creates the void controls the filling. Consider the Oracle of Delphi. The priests gave no straight answers. They spoke in riddles, leaving kings and generals in torment. Each ruler, desperate for clarity, projected his own hopes and fears into the oracle's words. The priests offered almost nothing, yet rulers gave them gold, reverence, and obedience. The void spoke louder than any command. Now reflect on your own dealings. When someone does not reply to your message, what happens? Do you not imagine every possibility? You create explanations, scenarios, entire stories in your mind. Their silence becomes louder than speech. The void consumes you until you surrender your peace to the one who created it. This is why absence is power. Presence is predictable, but absence awakens obsession. History is filled with rulers who mastered this art. Queen Elizabeth of England often delayed her decisions, leaving her advisors in anxious uncertainty. They debated endlessly, tried to anticipate her will, tore themselves apart searching for meaning in her silence, and yet, by offering no clear answer, she made them work harder, give more, submit deeper. The void turned her into a mystery, and mystery is the shadow of power. Psychology calls this closure-seeking. The mind craves resolution. It cannot tolerate unanswered questions. When denied closure, people will sacrifice time, effort, even dignity to fill the gap. And this is where the strategist strikes. Do you see the advantage? When you give people no certainty, they bind themselves to you. They think about you when you are gone. They shape their actions around what you might do. They devote energy to decoding you. And all the while, you remain still. This is not mere theory. It plays out every day in love, in war, in politics. The lover who withdraws creates a void that drives the other to madness. The ruler who withholds his intentions makes enemies hesitate, unsure how to strike. The leader who denies full truth forces followers to invent myths of greatness. Even in religion, the void is the foundation. Gods are never fully revealed. The absence of certainty compels worshippers to create stories, rituals, sacrifices. The void of heaven and hell keeps men obedient, for no one can bear not knowing what lies beyond death. So I ask you, do you give too many answers? Do you soothe others with constant reassurance, constant explanations? If so, you rob yourself of the greatest form of power, the power of absence. You must learn to cultivate the void, to hold back your approval, to delay your reply, to speak less than you know, to disappear when they expect you most. Each act of withholding becomes a hook buried in their mind. But be precise. The void must be measured. Too much emptiness, and they will abandon you. Too little, and they will never feel the hunger. Like a skilled ruler, you must grant fragments, never the whole. A taste of your presence, followed by silence sharp enough to wound. Think of yourself as the moon. It does not shine at all times. Its absence creates longing. Its return creates awe. If the moon burned endlessly like the sun, no one would lift their eyes to see it. So it is with you. Your absence must carve space in the minds of others. Your silence must become the stage where their imagination performs. The void you create will enslave them more than any chain. And here is the final cruelty. When you give them nothing, they will give you everything. Their energy, their loyalty, their obsession, all poured into the emptiness you left behind. You need not demand it. They will hand it to you freely, just to silence the torment of the void. But what if you could go further? What if you could not only create the void, but transform their desperate need into a weapon that serves your will completely? Need is weakness, but for the one who understands it, need becomes the purest form of power. Ask yourself, why do men obey? Why do they follow, submit, and sacrifice? It is not because of love. It is not because of reason. It is because of need. The hungry man will kneel for bread. The The fearful man will bow for safety. The lonely man will surrender his dignity for affection. Need strips men bare, and in their nakedness, they will give away everything to the one who holds what they crave. History proves this law. Julius Caesar did not win Rome with force alone. He offered the poor bread, the soldiers land, the elites security for their wealth. Each group needed something, and Caesar positioned himself as the answer. By filling their needs selectively, he made them loyal beyond reason. Rome gave him power because Rome could not imagine survival without him. Now reflect. How often do you reveal your need to others? How often do you beg for approval, affection, recognition? Every time you expose need, you hand over your strength. You become prey. But when you conceal your needs and exploit the needs of others, you ascend to mastery. Psychology confirms it. A person in need becomes irrational. They compromise, they cling, they chase shadows. The gambler in debt will risk everything for one last chance. The rejected lover will debase themselves for a scrap of attention. The desperate worker will endure humiliation just to keep a paycheck. Need turns strong men into slaves, without chains, without whips. And here lies the strategist's opportunity. Do not fight men directly. Find what they need, and make yourself the gatekeeper. You need not strike them. They will walk willingly into your grasp. Think of the Borgia family in Renaissance Italy. They ruled not through affection, but through the careful control of needs. They offered alliances, marriages, protection, only to those who bent the knee. Enemies soon found themselves crawling back, not because they loved the Borgias, but because they could not live without what the Borgias controlled. It was not kindness that secured loyalty. It was necessity. So I ask you, what do people around you need? Is it approval? Is it guidance? Is it money, protection, or belonging? If you know the answer, you hold the key to their soul, and if you deny it at the right moment, they will pay any price to regain it. This is why the strongest leaders do not give freely. They give conditionally. They allow hunger to grow. They let desperation sharpen, and only when the need is unbearable do they extend their hand. The one who feeds the starving too early wins gratitude for a day. The one who lets hunger fester wins loyalty for life. But beware, do not satisfy need completely. Once satisfied, need dies, and with it your control. The wise ruler keeps his followers thirsty, always believing the cup is near, but never letting them drink fully. This way, they remain dependent, forever chasing, forever bound. Think of the courtesans of Venice, who understood this art better than kings. They gave their admirers a glance, a word, a hint of affection, but never the whole of themselves. Men bankrupted themselves, fought duels, begged endlessly, all for the illusion of fulfillment that never arrived. Need turned to obsession. Obsession turned to control. And you, how could you apply this? Do not rush to answer every question. Do not give every reward at once. Do not reveal all of yourself. Instead, create gaps. Withhold. Let others feel the sting of absence. Their need will grow, and soon they will give you more than you ever asked. The truth is cruel but simple. People are not loyal to you. They are loyal to their needs. Tie their needs to your presence, and you tie their lives to your will. This is how need becomes power. It is not about giving. It is about controlling the hunger. It is about becoming the well in the desert, the only source of relief in a world of thirst. So I leave you with a question when they finally give you everything. Time, energy, loyalty, even their very selves. Will you quench their thirst? Or will you keep them thirsty forever, bound to you by the chain of need that can never be broken? The answer to that question will determine whether you are a ruler or a prisoner of your own mercy. Power is not seized by force alone. It is taken quietly in the shadows of the human mind. You do not control men by chains. You control them by hunger, by silence, by the void you leave and the illusion you create. When you give nothing, they invent everything. When you withhold, they surrender. When you deny, they offer themselves willingly. This is the hidden art to rule without lifting a sword, to command without raising your voice. It is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the understanding that people are prisoners of their own needs. And you, If you are wise, become their keeper. So ask yourself, do you rule the game, or do you serve it? If these truths strike you, leave your thoughts below. Subscribe, and you will gain more strategies that most will never dare to hear, and share this video so others may also awaken to the darker laws of power. Because only those who understand control will never be controlled.